My sister's text popped up before I even left for work. I'm quitting my job. You'll take care of us while I figure things out. No greeting, no hesitation, just a demand dressed as family. I stood there, dish towel still in my hand, staring at the words like they'd been rehearsed for years. Then, for the first time in my life, I typed back, "That's not on me." I pressed send, opened my laptop, and signed the overseas contract I'd been too scared to touch. 10 minutes later, Mom's name flashed across my screen. And what she wrote next didn't just test my patience, it ended 15 years of silence I used to call peace. Before we get into it, hit like and tell me, have you ever been the one who finally said no after years of keeping the family together? I used to think being dependable was something to be proud of. My parents sure did. At every family dinner, Mom would lift her glass and say, "To Lily, the one who keeps this family running." Everyone would laugh, but I knew what it meant, the one who pays for everything. From the outside, we looked perfect. A neat suburban house, roast chicken in the oven, football humming on TV. Inside, every smile had a price tag. Mom's little reminders about Jenna's bills. Dad's quiet nod toward me when the check came. Even Jenna's hugs came with follow-up texts. "Can you cover rent until next month?" 15 years of that turned responsibility into reflex. I told myself I was just helping, being a good daughter, a good sister. But the truth, I was their safety net and no one ever asked if I could afford to break. Jenna was always the dreamer. She'd bounce from one creative project to another, posting quotes about freedom while her phone bill hit my account. Mom defended her like it was a sacred duty. "She just needs support right now, honey. You're the stable one." Stable. That word used to sound flattering. Now it just felt like a cage with wallpaper. Michael, my boyfriend, saw through it before I did. One night he said, "You know they love you because it's convenient, right?" I laughed it off then, but his words stuck quiet and sharp like a splinter. The last dinner before everything cracked was textbook Pierce family theater. Jenna breezed in 20 minutes late wearing a designer coat that could have paid my utilities. Mom cooed, "You've had such a hard week," while I poured the wine and pretended not to exist. Dad grunted approval. I smiled through the heat crawling up my chest. After they left, I sat alone at the table, staring at the empty plates and the receipts shoved into my purse. My phone buzzed, another notification, the family phone plan. My own name buried under everyone else's. That night, I opened my notes and scrolled through years of transactions, rent, insurance, repairs, birthdays. It wasn't generosity anymore. It was proof of how far I'd gone to buy peace. I closed the app, leaned back in the chair, and whispered into the quiet kitchen, "How much longer am I supposed to hold this family together?" And somewhere deep down, a voice I'd ignored for years finally answered, "You don't have to." It started with another Sunday dinner that felt like déjà vu, same table, same silence, same performance. Jenna had quit her latest job to focus on her mental health, and Mom treated it like an act of bravery. "That takes courage, sweetheart," she said, eyes glassy with pride. I stared at my plate. Last year, when I took one sick day for exhaustion, she called me dramatic. Jenna twirled her fork, smiling, as her boyfriend Caleb leaned back, smirking. "She's building her brand," he said. "You wouldn't understand Lily. You're more corporate." The way he said corporate made it sound like a disease. I wanted to ask if brand meant me paying her bills again, but I bit my tongue. After dinner, Mom cornered me by the sink, lowering her voice like she was delivering state secrets. "Your sister's going through a hard time. You can help a little longer, right?" Help, the word that had become my leash. I nodded the same way I always did, because fighting never changed anything. That night, I lay in bed scrolling through my notes. The list of payments glared back at me. Car insurance, rent, phone plan. My own handwriting looked like evidence in a crime I kept committing against myself. Michael texted, "You okay?" I typed. "Just tired," then deleted it. He called instead. "You're not just tired," he said softly. "You're being drained." "I can handle it," I whispered. "Handling it isn't living." The line went quiet after that, but his words stayed. 2 weeks later, the real crack came. It was early, after 8:12 a.m. Sunlight slanting through the blinds, my laptop open, coffee cooling beside me. My phone buzzed once, twice, then a third time. I glanced down. A text from Jenna. "I'm quitting my job. You'll take care of us while I figure things out." No greeting, no explanation, just expectation. I froze. For a second, my brain reached for old reflexes, calculate, adjust, fix. but something inside me shifted small and seismic. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, stared at the screen, and typed 4 words that didn't feel like mine until I hit send. That's not on me. The words hung there sharp and terrifying. I waited for the wave of guilt that usually followed, but none came. Just silence. In front of me, my laptop chimed a reminder of the overseas contract I'd been avoiding for months. Dublin, start date Monday. I hovered over it, heart pounding. Mom would panic. Jenna would call me selfish. Dad would lecture me about family. But then Michael's voice echoed in my head. Handling it isn't living. I moved the cursor, clicked sign. It was quiet, anticlimactic almost. But deep in my chest, something unclenched for the first time in years. 10 minutes later, my phone lit up again. Mom. Her message glowed on the screen like a warning light. If you won't help your sister, don't come to Thanksgiving. I stared at it until the screen dimmed, and for once, I didn't feel shame. I felt something dangerously close to peace. I used to think silence meant punishment, that if my mother wasn't speaking to me, I must have done something wrong. But that morning, when her message came, if you won't help your sister, don't come to Thanksgiving, the silence that followed didn't hurt. It felt clean. I set my phone down and just listened to the hum of the fridge. No shouting, no guilt trip, no demands. For the first time in years, the quiet belonged to me. Then I turned to my laptop. The Dublin contract still sat open from the night before, waiting like a dare. Housing included relocation, covered start date Monday. Every excuse I'd made, Mom will panic. Jenna will crumble, sounded childish now. I clicked confirm. It didn't feel triumphant. It felt still, like stepping into a room where the air finally fit my lungs. Then I opened my banking app. The list of recurring payments I'd ignored for years filled the screen: family phone plan, Jenna's insurance, electric bill for my parents' house. My thumb hovered over cancel and trembled just once. Then one by one, I began to cut the ties. Cancel, remove, deactivate. Each click landed like a heartbeat, steady and final. I half expected lightning to strike or Mom to appear at my door, but the apartment stayed quiet. The only sound was my own breathing. A voicemail arrived from Aunt Rose midway through the process. Her voice syrupy sweet, every word sharpened with guilt. Sweetheart family gives and receives. Maybe you can give a little more this season. God will bless you back tenfold. I deleted it without listening to the end. By afternoon, I drafted something new: exit plan. It wasn't dramatic, just bullet points. Remove name from phone plan. Unlink Jenna's car insurance. Cancel utilities tied to parents' address. Freeze shared credit line. Transfer savings. I stared at the list, the weight of it both terrifying and exhilarating. Michael called that evening. You did it, didn't you? I think so, I said. I finally said no. He paused. You didn't say no, Lily. You said yes to yourself. When we hung up, I sat on the floor, surrounded by the quiet hum of appliances, the smell of coffee gone cold, and a strange growing sense of control. I'd always imagined freedom would roar, but it didn't. It whispered. That night, I packed a small suitcase, passport, work clothes, a photo of me and Michael at the lake. Everything else could stay. At 6:47 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Mom, family meeting tonight, 7 sharp, then you will be here. I stared at the screen, then typed back simple and calm, I won't. At 6:52 p.m., the doorbell rang. For a moment, I didn't move. The sound echoed through my apartment, sharp and insistent, cutting through the quiet like a warning. When I checked the peephole, Dad was standing there, work shirt still buttoned, face flushed, jaw set like granite. Open the door, Lily, he said, his voice low. Don't play games. I kept my hand on the lock. I'm not. He muttered something about disrespect, about how I'd been different since getting that new job offer. Then his footsteps faded, leaving only silence and the faint hum of the hallway lights. I leaned my forehead against the door and exhaled. They weren't coming to talk. They were coming to win. An hour later, my phone buzzed again. FaceTime. Family meeting. For a second, I considered ignoring it, but a colder part of me wanted to see them, wanted to finally stop pretending. I pressed accept. The screen lit up. Mom was in the kitchen, arms crossed, apron still on. Dad sat at the table beside her beer bottle, half empty. Jenna was next to him, eyes puffy but perfectly framed in the camera. Caleb hovered behind her, scrolling on his phone, smirking like it was all a show. Mom's voice came soft, rehearsed. Can we please talk like adults? I forced a small smile. That's what I've been doing. Jenna jumped in. You embarrassed us, Lily. You made me look like a beggar. I kept my voice even. You sent a demand. I declined. Her lower lip trembled, the same move she'd used since we were kids. You don't believe in me. You never have. That's not true, I said quietly. I believed you'd grow up. Caleb laughed under his breath. She's so uptight. No wonder you're single half the year. My eyes flicked to him. Do you even hear yourself? He shrugged. Just a joke. Mom's patience snapped. Enough, Caleb. Then she turned to me, voice sharpening. Your sister's business could change her life. She just needs someone responsible on paper. Dad leaned forward, hands clasped like he was negotiating a deal. It's not even risky. A small loan. $150 tops. You'll co-sign, that's all. I repeated the words slowly, like tasting something bitter. You're asking me to guarantee a $150,000 loan for someone who quit her job last week. Mom's tone hardened. Don't be dramatic. We raised you better than this. That was it. The click. The sound in my head when something finally breaks, but not loudly. Quietly. Cleanly. I took a deep breath. You didn't raise me to say yes, I said. You raised me to survive saying no. Silence. Real silence. The kind that fills a room and presses against your ribs. Dad's face flushed red. Watch your tone. I am, I said evenly. It's calm. Mom's eyes narrowed. So that's it. You're walking away from your family. I'm walking away from being your financial plan. Jenna's voice cracked. You're punishing me for being different. No, I said. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. Her eyes filled again. You think you're better than us? I think I'm tired. Mom slammed her hand on the table, the sound echoing through the speaker. You'll regret this, Lily. I nodded once. Maybe, but at least it'll be on my own dime. And before anyone could speak again, I pressed end call. For a few seconds, all I heard was my own breathing. The apartment was dim, the last bit of daylight slipping through the blinds. I looked down at my phone messages pouring in, one after another. Mom, you're cruel. Dad, you'll apologize when this blows over. Jenna, you destroyed this family. Aunt Rose, forgiveness heals, sweetheart. God sees your heart. I turned the phone face down. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was sacred. Then I opened the file labeled Exit Plan. Checked every box, removed from phone plan. Unlinked insurance, canceled utilities. Closed credit line. Booked flight. By the time the clock hit midnight, there were 43 missed calls blinking on my screen. None from Michael. He knew. At 12:07 a.m., the phone rang again. This time I answered. Hey. His voice came softly. You sound lighter. I think I'm just done, I said. Then do something about it. Not for revenge, for peace. After we hung up, I stared out the window. The street below was quiet, empty, the kind of calm I used to envy in other people's lives. For once, it was mine. By morning, the retaliation began. A Facebook post from Mom about ungrateful children, a text from Aunt Rose with a Bible verse about forgiveness, a cryptic story from Jenna. Sometimes the ones you love hold you back. They wanted shame to be my punishment, but all I felt was relief. That afternoon, I finished packing. My passport, work ID, and the signed contract tucked inside a folder. When I zipped the suitcase, the sound felt final, like a door closing softly behind me. As I slid on my coat, my phone buzzed one last time. Mom again. We won't forget this. I typed back slowly, each word deliberate. Neither will I. Then I powered it off. Outside, the air was cold but clean. The sky over the city pale and clear, like the beginning of something that didn't need permission. I locked the door behind me suitcase, rolling across the hallway tiles. Each step felt like proof that I had finally stopped being useful and started being free. The airport smelled like burnt coffee and early morning rain. I moved through the line, half awake, half weightless. No group chat buzzing, no guilt bleeding into every thought. Just the soft rumble of luggage wheels and the sound of my own breathing. When the plane lifted off, I pressed my forehead to the window and watched the city shrink beneath the clouds. For 15 years, that skyline had meant obligation. Now it looked almost beautiful from far away. Dublin was colder than I expected, gray skies, wet cobblestones, air that tasted like salt and freedom. The company apartment was small, one bedroom with white walls and a view of the canal. The first night I unpacked one suitcase, brewed tea, and stood at the window until the streetlights flickered on. Everything inside those walls belonged to me. Every bill, every choice. A week later, Mom's voicemail arrived. Her voice trembled with something between pride and resentment. "Jenna found part-time work. We're fine. Your dad says hi." I listened twice, not for what she said, but for what she didn't. No guilt, no demand, just distance. I didn't call back. I didn't need to. That night, I opened my old notes pages of bills and payments, once labeled family. I scrolled to the bottom and typed one final line, "Debt cleared emotionally and otherwise." Then I closed the laptop and let the quiet fill the room. For the first time in my life, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. Sunday morning light spilled across the table, catching the steam from my coffee. No buzzing phone, no new demands, just quiet. I thought about the first message that started it all. "You'll take care of us while I figure things out." Maybe once I would have out of habit or fear, but not anymore. I smiled at my reflection in the window, the city unfolding behind me like a clean slate. Real love doesn't drain you, it steadies you. If you've ever chosen peace over guilt, share your story below. You're not alone. And don't forget to subscribe for the next story.